Let me know once it is visible.
Yes, now it is.
Okay. So we will start with this one. The link, you have got this link? This is the link where we can open the lab. The first step is to open the lab.
No.
You can use your live email address. Actually, for every student who wants to learn it, to have an environment where he can practice, he or she, that will be easy for them. You know, everything is ready-made there. But there
I
are
have a local. I have a local VM, but
yeah. Some people, they have the local VM, but you know, the majority of people, especially the new learners, they don't know how to get the lab or how to get the environment where they can practice it. So I don't know, maybe you are you an experienced developer or you are a beginner?
I'm not a beginner, and I don't have a big. And I have maybe 1 year of experience in AX. I mean, but I have experience in SharePoint and .NET.
Okay.
But I'm a little bit, yes, I'm new. We can say new, but I have experience. I I go through the course. I learned some. I learned some courses, some modules.
Okay, great. So actually this was for, you know, the beginners, so at least we can record it for them, so that they can make use of this. So definitely you must have already, you know, accessed it. So it is simple, just administrator login will appear, and there they can put the password. And then sometime the script automatically take cares about everything. You don't need to do anything. Admin user provisioning will start and it will make it ready. Otherwise, there is a you know, desktop shortcut available. This one, and you can just right click, run as administrator. It will open a dialog, and where you can put your you know, credentials, which are available on the right hand side at the top. Username and password. So that username need to be put there in the admin provisioning tool. But since now it is taking care through shell script, so I think there is no need of that one. So this environment is available only for 4 hours, and it is better to have a OneDrive access, because this is a internet ready machine, and the OneDrive can be accessed it here, and then we can make a file and then upload it, and later on when we need to continue from the same point, we can download and import it. So, but it is available only for 4 hours. So meanwhile, we can start. I think Visual Studio script has already over. Visual Studio should be open in administrator, run as administrator. There are 2 possibilities. You can right click over Visual Studio, go to the advanced, and already it is run as administrator. If you click it, it will open as run as administrator. Otherwise, you can use this command, run as administrator, because there are certain things which will need the admin access. And there is one more tip that is for SQL, because now in order to check data in your machine, it is necessary to have SQL access. So for that, Management Studio should be open as run as administrator. So now the administrator user is the same in which I have logged in already, and then it can be connected, and the DBs will be available. One is data warehouse, one is the transactional DB, and all the tables will be open. So this is it. Just to open Management Studio, and then we can go to the Visual Studio environment first. First of all, there are updates, but there is no need to apply updates at this stage. We can go to the View menu, and in the View menu, Application Explorer is available, which is what will show us the application object tree. And application object tree is nothing but an organized view of the objects on which D365 is built. So we'll just open it and pin it. All the objects are there. And the first step before creating any project would be to create a model. And in order to revise the concept of a model, and there is a package and there is a project. So there are three components, and these works just like a container, or in order to organize the various objects. So at the granular level, it will be the project, and project will be contained within a model, and multiple models may be within a package. So this is the hierarchy from top to bottom. So package is the bulkiest or the biggest container, and then the model, and then is the project. Project is the smallest one. And then there is definitely a solution, Visual Studio solution, and inside Visual Studio solution, there can be multiple projects. So first of all, in order to start with a project, it is better to create a model, because if you don't create a model, so whatever the model pre-exists as a default model, the new project will be created within that. So in order to create your project, it is better to create a model separately. So because this is a VM which will be reused and it will be again launched by any other developer, so it is good to have a model here. And meanwhile, I will also open the environment here. Here the username will be on the right hand side at the top, which admin provisioning tool has already set up for us. So once we click on the button, so it will be filled in, and then the password will be filled in. You can save here and say yes. So this is the environment in front of us. There are various modules, and some are financial, some are supply chain, and other are payroll and HR modules. So this is already open, and the service is basically running on IaaS. So to start with the model, I will name it just like, for example, PKR model, and publisher name can be your name. Are you also following me?
Yes, sure.
Yeah, it would be better. So here it is saying that while creating a model, it is asking to create a new package or create this model within an existing package. So if you choose an existing package, the user layer packages will be available. But for this, I will choose the create new package. So the model will be contained within that package. And here you can see there are some reference packages, and this refers similarly to the .NET projects where we create the references to the existing projects or DLLs or existing objects. So similarly, on the AOT, application object tree, where different objects are organized and on which D365 is built on, so each of the object will belong to certain package that I will show in a moment. So whatever package, whatever object you want to work, so it is better to reference that package beforehand. Even if you don't refer here, and later on if you happen to work on certain object which was not referred at earlier stage, you can later on again change it. So this settings will can be again changed in future, so no need to worry about it. So by default it is application platform is ticked, so that is okay for now. And we'll just, it will ask by default create a new package, make this my default model for new projects. So once I finish it, so whatever the new projects I create, so the default model will be the pkr underscore model. So this model will be the default model for all the projects which I create. And I want to also create a new project, so I will finish, and the new project wizard will start. Okay, so we will just create a project, and we can put a name here, like it should be a logical name, but we'll just, as a hello world example, we'll, okay, there is one more. As a hello world example, we'll just create a test project here, and we'll create a runnable class. Do you have any idea about runnable class?
Yes, yes. The runnable class contains the main method that,
Yes,
that
main method.
runs, that you can add your logic there, and you
Correct,
can test, for example, some code
correct,
to replace the job in AX 2000, 2020, 2020.
correct, correct. In the users, just like you, experienced developers who have already worked in AX 2012, they already know there was a job. A job was an object within AOT, application object tree, and this is on the left hand side. So jobs were used for various purposes previously. For example, to test a piece of code which you need to implement within a class or within a table method. So you just want to test it on a, keeping it separate or isolated, and see after giving certain parameters or inputs. So you need to check what are the outputs once you have given those inputs. So that was a smaller job which is now called runnable class. So runnable class will have definitely a main method which will be the entry point from where the control will start executing. So on the left hand side, we can see here, each of the object are contained within a package. So this was, available as a reference package. So if we want to, for example, work on accountant BR table, make an extension about it. So we need to reference the fiscal books package in our model. So without that, the compiler will give us the warning or error. Similarly, on the base enums, you can see different packages are available, shown in which they are contained basically. So there is, I think, another guy with the name administrator. Hello, administrator. Okay, so we'll just now start with adding an object. We have so far created a model, and if, for example, a project is created before creating a model, and so definitely a default model will be shown here. So at that time, before creating any object, we can change the model of a project. So how we can achieve that? We can right click the project, go to the properties, and here there is a provision of changing a model to a separate model in which you want that project to exist. So in this drop down or lookup, we can change the another model. So apart from this, there is one more important property here, which is called synchronized database on build. So whenever there are data dictionary changes, like you are creating new fields or you are creating altogether a new table, so you would like to make this property true, because at the time of build, the data dictionary changes will be committed to the database, SQL database, and the new fields or table will be created. So based upon your data dictionary changes. Similarly, there are, for example, startup object property, in which you can just when you want to debug your code, so you can make startup object, certain object as a startup, and then start debugging for that code. So these are few properties here. Now we'll just add, for example, a runnable class. And how to do that? Just right click over the project, just here over the project node instead of a solution node. Just go to the add and just add a new item. And on the left hand side, you will see various, D365 objects or application object tree objects, in which we can see there is a code. Within the code, there is a runnable class. Similarly, there are various nodes like analytics, where you can see KPI, aggregate dimensions, and other dimensions. And there can be, configuration key, license code, data model or data dictionary changes like query, table collections. So various objects are organized way, they are available in this wizard. And here you can see data types, base enum. These are user defined data types. Some are called primitive data types, which are just like integer and real. But these data types are based upon the primitive data types. So base enum is a type of integer, or you can call it a short integer maybe. So similarly, EDT can be of various types, like a date, EDT, enum, and enum then can extend base enum. And similarly, there can be EDT integer or integer 64 to be a bigger number. To accommodate the bigger number, you can use this integer 64. Similarly, EDT of real type and EDT string, and time, and UTC date time. So similarly, there are various objects, like when you will be creating reports, you will be choosing the object of report from here. And there are various report types also available, and objects related to role and task security will be available here. Like there will be a role, and within role there will be duty. Within duty there can be privileges, and security policies are also available. Similarly, the service and service groups, and then user interface elements like menu item of various types, display to point to a form, and then action menu item to point to a class, and output to in order to point to a report. So these are various elements. We will start with the runnable class here. So in order to make an abbreviation, it is better practice, because in this way your objects will be organized within, these objects are organized in alphabetical form. So once you give a, abbreviation, like your initial of your name and then underscore, it will be better. And then there can be a module name, like sales module, vend to be payable module, cust to be a receivable module. And similarly, it can be a purchase module, that is a procurement and sourcing module, and asset to be a fixed asset module. So these abbreviation will follow after your names abbreviation. So for example, if I can make like this vend and test. So vend will denote that it is a payable module. So in similar fashion, you can name your objects. So I will just create this runnable class. It will take a while, and it will give me a class skeleton, and within that skeleton, there will be a main method. Okay. So here it is, the class method, and then there is a main method. So this is the normal structure of a class, that it will start with the access modifier can be there, like public, private, or protected, and then the class keyword, and then the name of the class. And within the curly braces, you will find the method bodies within that class. So to start with, we will start with the few variables here. This is the main method, and I need to define also that this is access modifier. And the static keyword defines that this method can be called without instantiation, without initializing this class as an object. So directly with the scope resolution operator, this main method can be called. So this is the static. But static variable are definitely different. That will hold the value, that will persist their value. So the method means without instance you can call this method. And then there is a return type. Return type can be integer, real, or an EDT type, which is also based on a primitive data type. And in this case, there is no return data type, so it means this will not return any value. A void means there is no return data type, or there is no return value. So void methods are normally used as a procedures to perform certain actions. So when there is a return type, so those methods are used to receive certain parameters, and based on those parameters to calculate business logic and return a particular value that can be of any type, can be integer, real, or string, any type. So those methods will return certain value, but in this case it is just like a procedure, and it will perform a procedure. So that is it. So now we need to have a try catch. Can you guys tell me what is try catch basically?
If you have a block of code and if you might face, for example, exception, so it's best practice to put it in a try catch
Correct.
operation.
Correct.
So
yes, correct. It is beauty of X++ or any other language like C++ or any good language, that you want to handle your errors or exceptions in order to have it stable stable product. So in order to have a stable product, you can foresee, for example, based upon inputs or parameters, or based upon calculation, that there can be a value which cannot be handled at certain stage. So uh, in order to handle that situation, you will basically use try catch statement. And we will just start with, for example, I will declare one variable. In order to name a variable, it is always a good practice if you can give them a meaningful name. So for example, if this is an integer variable and it is used as a counter, so you can give it a name as a counter. So because that will be more readable for other developers who will be working within the X++ coding or programming. And in order to keep it clean, neat and clean, always the commented code should be removed in the final stages. You can use it while working, but once you are finalizing your code, so unnecessary variables which are not used within the scope of that function or method, so those can be removed. And sometime compiler definitely give you best practices warning that these are unused variable and can be removed. So then I can declare, for example, a real. These are primitive data types. and then there is a string variable. So these are so actually this is still you know, now you can see it is in black. So the blue or light blue color is appearing for the keywords. Actually, the compiler is recognizing them as a keyword. So keyword cannot be used as a variable. So always remember that. So in a try statement, I will first need to convert, for example, a string value. So I can initialize the variable at the time of declaring that variable. So for example, I'm putting some number here, and I have declared in the same line, and I have assigned the initial value in the same line. So in this way, I can initialize also the variable, and now I can convert this number into for example, a real number. So what I can do here, for example, this variable real will be assigned after the function which is str to num. Okay, in this one, if I give it a text value like this string value, so what it will do, it will convert it into a real number, because you can see here in a tooltip that the return type is real. So this is for str to num. This is the conversion function, and similarly there are so many other functions available. You can see str2, and you can see here str to date is also available, str to date time available, str to integer and integer 64, and these are various conversions available. So I can give here like variable string. Okay, so this string value will be converted using this string to num to a real value, and will be assigned to this real one. And then what I can do here, like variable integer. So I will use, for example, variable real, and divide it by, for example, variable integer. Can you tell me what it will do here in the second line? I will open the. There are options available in D365 where you can enable, the line numbers. Here it is line number. So this is X++ node of text editor, and we can enable line number. Word rep is available, but I think it will not be suitable. So now on the line number of 16, so what would be the expected output here? Can anyone tell me?
Exception here. It's an exception divided
Exception.
by 0.
Yes, divide by 0, because variable integer will hold a value of 0 here, because once you declare integer or real, so the initial value will be the 0 in this case. So for string it will be null. So this will be division by 0 error, and it will go to the catch. And there is one more block here, which is called finally.
Finally.
Yes. So finally, block of code will always execute. Whatever, whether error happens or error is not happened, and try block has successfully executed. So the finally block will always be executed. So what I will do, I can So this will show us the info log. And here we'll show error has happened. There can be exception types, like there are different exception type, and these exception type we can catch in the catch block. For example, if we can introduce a catch here with, for example, there is a numeric. So first of all, the specific exception will be executed, and then if it is not caught there, so it will go to the general exception. So we can put here like the specific numeric. So that will show us that there is a specific numeric exception, and but this kind of exception numeric happens when there is a exception, for example, in conversion function. Then it will be happening. In this case, it is division by 0, so it will go to the catch statement. So this is a example of generic. So in order to, once you have done with your code, in order to execute, definitely there is a start option available here. And there is a build menu here, which we can use in our code in order to build it. So we can start it here. And since we have less time now, we can also see here there is an option of start debugging. So that is with F5 key, and start without debugging is control F5 key. And before that, we need to also attach to the process. But in this case, runnable class, we don't need to do that. So before that, we need to give a breakpoint here. So breakpoint are the points in your code where you can you want to have compiler to stop at that point, and then you can scan it line by line. So that is called a breakpoint, and by pressing F9 key, you can put a breakpoint in somewhere in your code. For example, if I want to have a breakpoint here, I will put the cursor there and press F9 key. So that I can now start debugging my code. Okay, so before that, I need to make this as a startup object. So that is also necessary. For that, you can just go to the class and make it set as a startup object. The other one I have already shown you within the project. Are you guys with me?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes, yes.
I thought that that was disconnected. Basically,
Oh, no.
no, I think they
That's
have
fine.
continued it. Same code with the same meeting ID. It will take a while in order to load the symbols, and then it will reach at this point, and then it will show us.
what the symbols mean, because also in the options we have an option to load symbols, but I didn't understand what is a symbol.
Symbols are basically, you can call it like in .NET we have, in Java we have bytecode, or this is a, middle, somewhere in the middle they generate symbols and then they generate, exe file or DLL. So symbols are before that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it is showing me, generic error has happened, and the value shown is 0. Actually, the breakpoint has not caught, and it has shown me an error that no symbols were loaded for this document due to some problem. Anyway, the code was executed, and finally, basically, it happened into the generic error. It flowed into this catch statement instead of the first one, and so that's why it is showing generic error has happened, and then 0. 0 came from where this finally statement. The value of integer was 0, so it was shown there. So in this way, the code has executed, but there was some problem in, I think, in this VM, that it did not stop in this breakpoint. So anyway, there is one more thing which we need to do normally. In before debugging, we normally attach the process, and that process is, then you can open here, show process from all user, and in this one, yeah, this W3 WP process, you need to attach it. So once it is attached, then you need to execute again. This was the last output on the right hand side, the info log window. So again, it is giving the same display. So in this one, I have just now closed the browser because after enabling, attaching the process and setting a breakpoint, for example, I put a breakpoint by pressing F9 here. I need to again start debugging and ensure that your browser is closed. So once again, the browser will open with the start of debugging. So now the breakpoint has been caught at this point, and we can observe the values. For example, variable integer is 0, variable real is 0, and string at this point is null. And once this statement is executed, then the value will be assigned. And then we have certain commands here, like step into, step over, and step out. Step out is when inside method you want to come out of that method, and step into is when there are method calls, so it will enter into the method. But the difference in step over is it will not enter the method, rather it will execute the method, but it will not enter the method on each statement when there is a statement of line with the call of method. So that is it. And normally F11 is to execute to the next line. So here you can see now the variable value is assigned here. In this way, by pressing F11, you can see the output of each line. So at this point, you can see the variable real has been assigned a value, and variable integer is 0, and real is having this converted value. So it will create a division by 0 error, and it will go to directly catch statement. And the info log with generic error has happened will be executed, and you can see at the bottom info log generic error has happened, and then finally will be executed in all the cases. Here variable integer is having 0 value, so that has been shown here. So in this way you can start debugging. Save this as a XPO, for example. Yeah, this is here. Just right click your project and use this export command. You can see here in previous version it was called XPO. So now it is .axpp file. Basically, it will hold your code. So you can just, for example, give it a name and save it.
Even on my machine, it didn't hit the breakpoint. It just got the result.
Yes. No, this step is basically to save your code so that next time if you start working.
No, I meant in the breakpoint. Even here in my machine, not in the lab also didn't hit the breakpoint.
Yeah, that is, I think, due to some problem on the lab's machine. But maybe in another VM, because I have tested so many times. So for any other machine, it will not be like this. So there are some problem. And this Visual Studio version, this was not working for me. That is 2019 version, and I have been using 2017 version. So that is most stable. But this one is sometime hiding the decorators, sometime giving some very strange behavior. So this export file is done. Okay, so in the documents, this is the AXPP file. We can also observe what is contained within this. So these are binaries. You cannot read it. So now what we can do is we can open the OneDrive and upload it. So that next time if you want to work from the same code, you can just import it. And import command is also given, if you can go there. Yeah, here. So next time if you want to work in this, you can just import it using this command. So it will import your last changes. So I think that's it for as an initial, and let's hope next time to have a better timing. I think I will move it to somewhere in the evening, and then we'll start with our although I think we have covered mostly the thing from this first module, customize finance and operation apps by using Visual Studio. So in this one, we have majority of things we have covered except this deployment packages, which are basically when you finalize your changes and you want to make it as a deployable package, then basically at that time you will create a deployable package to upload it to the asset library to deploy to U8 machine and then further release candidate to the production machine. And synchronize data changes, the option we have discussed it, and element designer to create elements, and the labs we have already created. And I think next time we'll cover this one. Exception handling we have covered little bit. Next time we'll be covering these. So hopefully next Sunday and maybe to evening time. Let's see. I will create another, survey so that everyone they make it any good timing, and then we'll start with that one. And thank you very much, guys. Take care, and thank you for your participation.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye bye.